Hi, everyone. Welcome to Soulprint Intuitive Tarot. Thank you very, very much for being here. All right, I want to take a look at Republicans writ large, okay? I'm not talking about necessarily the party. I want to look at the energy of Republicans, broadly speaking, the people who vote Republican either because it's their party and they've always voted Republican, or they agree with some of 45's biases and prejudices, and they're in alignment with his thinking. The ones who thought that there was too much waste in the government and that it should be streamlined, but not by completely detonating entire departments, particularly areas where Republicans depend on those, services, whether it's Social Security, whether it is Medicaid, Medicare, whatever it is. They're now starting to go, oh my God. And what you keep on hearing is people saying, well, I voted for him, but I didn't vote for this. Well, that's what happens. I'm sorry, but that's what happens when you have people who actually think that the head of a country, any country, can control the price of eggs. I mean, that's not how commerce works, right? It's supply and demand. The more demand there is, the higher the price, particularly when the supply is impaired in some reason, for some reason, like eggs and bird flu and, the volume of eggs that are actually able to get to the stores is lower than normal, and so the ones in the stores, their price goes up. For people who just thought he could come in and tell all the grocery stores of the country to just lower their price on eggs, well, now they're understanding that he can't do that. Hopefully it's something that they remember going forward. But a lot of those Republicans in those red states are being really, really hurt and harmed by what's going on and what's being done. So I want to take a look and see how these people are feeling, what their reaction and their response is to the decisions that are being made and the way those decisions are being carried out. So again, I'm not looking specifically at the party as much as I am looking at the people, right? Here we go. Thank you for being here. Before I wander off in that direction, questions, please, in the comment section. And we will be looking at those questions and answering them on Pendulum Friday. Here we go. Republican response now. Republican response now. Republican response now. And listen, there are still a good number of people out there who are not paying attention, and they're reading the headlines on Fox or Breitbart or somewhere else, and they're thinking everything's just fine. Ricky Dory, it's a beautiful thing. They're still out there, okay? But the shift is starting to be felt. For the first time in 8 years, people have now said, wait a minute, I think the Democrats are better able to handle the economy. The Democrats have never been known for being voted for handling the economy, which is so ludicrous considering they're the ones who keep on balancing the budget or, reducing the debt. But perception is reality. And if your perception is skewed, well, so is your reality. All right, let's get going here. We're starting with the Knight of Cups, okay? And so this is about the romanticized version of what they thought, starting to it's like the rose-colored glasses are coming off, and they're recognizing that the choices and the decisions that they made have directly brought them and the country to where it is right now. But primarily the energy of this card really is talking about them seeing more clearly. And not all of them, but it's starting. There's starting to be a bit of a groundswell. And that's part of the reason why political Republicans are starting to get like panicky, because they realize that if this behavior continues from the administration and they still haven't found their backbone, they're going to be annihilated come the midterms. All right. The Star. You know, everybody's entitled to believe what they wish. That's one of the benefits, if you will, of living in a democracy. But what's happening is their vision of this magical utopia that was going to be created has turned into an out of control craziness that's basically leading to the destruction of what is, if you will. See, the tower, let's not forget, one of the things that the tower represents is tearing down something that foundation isn't really, really strong. And so what has happened over time with the government is that the foundation has gotten a little wobbly. I mean, there's some antiquated systems, there's some ideas. No one is saying that it wasn't time for a makeover or an overhaul, but not the way it's being done. And it is the chaos and the craziness and the uncertainty that is triggering Republicans to start looking at things from a different perspective. One of the ways that you see them pushing back is all of those town halls where people are screaming at their representatives to do your job. And your job is to represent the will of the people, not the will of 45. And it is Republicans who are saying, you need to start pushing back. Find your damn backbone and push back against the fool who is not only destroying the country himself, but who is allowing other people like EM to destroy it too. So there is some real pushback coming because the damage is being done and it's impacting them. When you have people in red states who are, this is it. On the one hand, and I'm not well versed in this, so just kind of go with me here. So let's say in the agricultural industry, right? So you have a lot of rules and regulations. And there's, I'm sure, a lot of people out there who think enough already with the regulations, lighten them a little bit, reduce them so that we can, make more money so it isn't so expensive for us to create our product. Well, okay, until all the crazy started with the tariffs or basic market fluctuations. And all of a sudden, it isn't a matter of reduce some regulation so that it's easier for us. It's we don't have no one to sell it to. So they're being hurt almost like coming and going, right? They're kind of getting it from both ends now, right? So that's the dynamic that a lot of people in red states are starting to recognize. They are now being impacted personally. And at that point, they're starting to pay attention to what is going on. And again, the most common refrain that you hear is, well, that's not what I voted for. Well, elections have consequences. And when you vote on a single idea or item and you disregard every other thing, you voted for the package, not the one thing. And so now, not only can he not do the one thing, but the package is creating absolute chaos in your world. That's where you sort of have this idea of how do we rein this in? How do we stop this? And one of the sort of immediate reactions is to get a hold of the reps and say, do your job, do what you're supposed to be doing, slow him down, stop him. He's destroying us. He's bankrupting us. The death card. Like, not only does this literally mean, in some ways, almost the death of the American way, but it also brings the hope and the promise of a rebirth. So I think what you're going to see is Republicans, not becoming Democrats, but becoming independents and realizing that they have to start paying a little bit more attention to what is going on with their government, whether it is, again, city, state, federal, because decisions are being made that are really about an ideology and they're not about the reality. It's just like all of these people who want, they wanted books banned in schools and they wanted certain things taught in schools and other things not taught in schools. Okay, well, that aligns with your ideology. I may not agree with it, but I can understand your thought processes. Oh, you mean you didn't want the entire Department of Education destroyed? Well, it was part of the plan. I guess that's what happened when you weren't voting for the whole idea. You were just voting for one item. So what you're looking at now is this sort of almost this energy of trying to find this sort of this new start, this new beginning. The problem is that you have too much dark money involved now, right? You gave your power to the corporation, Citizens United, a perfect example. And so now, while your vote counts, you are also being dramatically impacted by the false information and false narratives that are being fed to you, like happened to a baby, right? And first you have to figure out that what's being fed to you isn't accurate. And only then can you start pulling back and pushing back against all of the, again, false narrative that's coming, whether it's coming from Russia or China or Fox News. There needs to be that awareness so that you can start pulling back. generally speaking, Republicans are just flat out feeling threatened. They're feeling like this isn't what they were expecting. And I've said enough about that, so I'm not going to repeat, you know, elections have consequences. Okay, I repeated it. I couldn't help myself. But what you have here are people who now feel they are under attack, and they're somehow trying to now go into a self-protective mode. And they are looking to their representatives, and they are becoming very, very disenchanted with those reps, because those representatives are not doing what is just and fair. They are working very hard at not paying attention to that. They're working very, very hard to pacify the wannabe, emperor, the wannabe king. And now the thing is as the pressure continues to mount, and if you can take nothing away from this, take that people are not kind of going, we're tired, we're done, we're not going to do this. They're not surrendering, they're not capitulating. The population is pushing back, whether it is against Tesla or government cuts or vet services that are being destroyed, the education system that's being destroyed, whatever it is, people are pushing back, and that is growing. That momentum is multiplying. When you have the kind of numbers that you have of people not only showing up to rallies, but by the tens of thousands, and certainly some of the big ones by the hundreds and hundreds of thousands, you start to realize that they're not all Democrats in there. There are people who are trying to figure out how to pull in the reins of literally what they see as a government that has just lost its way. And that the direction of the country, the direction of their own lives are being impacted in a way that is incredibly damaging. That's where you're at. So what you have right now is a bunch of really unhappy Republicans who can't get their reps to do what they want, who can't get their government to do what they want. And, part of their conundrum, if you will, is the fact that they still hold a lot of the beliefs and ideologies and philosophies that make them Republican. That's okay. But what they're now figuring out is that train flew right off the tracks. And what they're getting is not their perception of what they wanted or what they thought they were getting. What they're getting is big money's perception. And that's where there needs to be continuing information, understanding, and growth by people who were perfectly happy to just vote because they always voted that way, or to just vote because they liked the fact that he was going to stick it to the big guy, not realizing that he's one of them. Okay. Until next time, take care and be well. Thank you so much for being here. Questions in the comment section. And I hope that this has been helpful. Until next time, take care and be well. Bye for now.